Hey, welcome back to Holistic Moms. I'm your host, Shan Wright. Have you ever had any health challenges? You or a family member? How have you handled them? Has it been hard? Or if you haven't yet, what if you do? What are you going to do? Well, I actually have a guest on the show today who has had both of those things happen. She had a health challenge and her son, and she is going to share with us what she did to overcome it, how she found courage in all of it in the big trial in her life, and now what she's doing in spite of it. So I'm super excited to introduce to you Kristin Longacre. She is dedicated to guiding families through the transition to a gluten-free lifestyle with ease. Her journey began when her son was just 2.5 years old, thrusting her into the world of gluten-free living. Motivated by her own experiences, Kristin has made it her mission to empower fellow moms to confidently navigate dietary changes for their families. As a certified holistic nutrition coach from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, Kristin brings knowledge and expertise to her coaching clients. She's also a certified health mindset coach, emphasizing the importance of mental wellness and dietary adjustments. Beyond her individual coaching sessions, Kristin supports gluten-free moms through her collections of ebooks, popular blog posts, and comprehensive course tailored to busy moms seeking to embrace a gluten-free lifestyle without sacrificing precious time with their children. Kristin Longacre's passion for empowering families on their gluten-free journey shines through her holistic approach and accessible resources. Whether you're a seasoned parent or new to gluten-free lifestyle, Kristin's expertise and support are invaluable assets on your path to healthier living. Okay, so I'm so excited to bring you this conversation with her. But before we do, let's talk about another challenge. Another challenge in life is being consistent. Being consistent with the daily habits that we know we need to do, these daily habits that advance our wellness, but are so hard to fit into the busy lifestyle. As everything goes back and gets into the swing of fall and the fall activities, the routines, back to school, I want to help you get back to the basics of prioritizing your wellness, your holistic wellness. Are you ready? I want to come alongside you in a 21-day holistic health challenge in a group setting where you're going to find so much encouragement, support, accountability. We all know that is the secret sauce to consistent action. You're going to have so much accountability in this 21 days. It's going to really set you up for sustainable change through consistent habits. You're going to create these habits because you're going to have the accountability for that 21 days, and it's going to push you to keep going after the challenge is over. Okay, friend, this is for any wellness area. Any 8 wellness area, this is actually also for anyone. You can be a mom. You don't have to be a mom. You can be a grandmother. You can be a teen. You can be whoever. You can be a male. You can be a dad, but whoever you are, I want to come alongside of you as your courageous coach, spur you on to courageous action, help you stay accountable to it as your accountability partner and bestie. And I am going to be your cheerleader. I'm going to support you in every way, no matter what challenge comes your way in this challenge, because life happens. And right now it's busy. It's back to school, everything. But at the same time, let's get back to you, because if you can't do it in the hustle and bustle of the busy season, you're not going to do it ever. You have to learn how to do it and stay consistent in it, even when the schedule is busy. These daily tasks, these daily challenges will take you seconds to minutes of your day, and they will actually set you up for sustainable change. It's going to be an amazing time. It is only, get ready, only $37 to join me for the entire 21 days. You're going to have weekly trainings. You're going to have daily challenges, weekly challenges. You're going to have a wellness tracker. You're going to have daily prayer. You know, that's the other major secret sauce. You're going to have $500 in prizes and giveaways that you can win. you're going to have encouragement, support. It's going to be in a private Facebook group where we can really get to know each other and help each other along the way. You're going to connect with other like-minded moms that you can really link arms with. So this is going to be super fun. I've done this before. This is going to be, I'm taking it up a notch. It's going to be even better. And so please join me in this 21-day holistic health challenge. It starts September 4th. So September 4th through September 25th, 21 days, we're going to do this, okay? And so go right now to theshanwright.com/challenge. theshanwright.com, right with the W, /challenge. Anyone can join. Anyone can do this. It's going to be a blast. It's only $37. I cannot wait. And that price is only there so that you actually commit. So you actually come into the group and do it with me. I could do it free, but I don't think you would do it if it was free. So I'm adding a little bit of a price to it so that you show up and you show up for yourself, because I think that's one of the problems that you're having is you're not showing up for yourself. And so let's prioritize ourselves. Let's get back to you, mama, and let's do it together. Go right now to theshanwright.com/challenge, and I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay, without further ado, let's get to our conversation with Kristin. Hey mama, are you stressed by the lack of time in the day to do all the things? Are you feeling disconnected from God, your husband, and even your kids because patience and presence seem out of reach? Do you want a healthier body, mind, spirit, and home, but overwhelmed in where to start? Hey, I'm Shan Wright, daughter of the king, wife, mom to 4, RN, wellness coach, and I know very well what it feels like to want to live well, but about to lose it with my very blessed full life. After realizing I can't pour from an empty cup, I tracked my way to whole body wellness and so much peace. If you are ready to cancel the stressed out life, learn tactical, intentional strategies as a mom wearing many hats, find more peace, confidence, and joy raising kingdom kids, then listen in. Come on, mama, together we got this. Really, God's got this. So go heat up that coffee again and turn your listening ears on. Let's chat. I'm excited to share with you another testimony on the show today. We have another holistic nutritionist, actually, but here we're going to take a very specific route, and it's going to be based off of her testimony, so I'll let her share that. But just help me welcome and thank you, Kristin, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be up here.
Yes. Okay, so first off, I want the listeners to get to know you a little bit. So share with us 3 things that you are loving right now.
I would have to say, so I have 2 kids, and one is 11 and one is 8. And I would say sports season, we are in a chaotic season of life in general with sports, and just seeing them go out there and have fun with friends and all of that, sports for sure. Summer break, we're wrapping it up, but at the same time, having them home, but also that they get to go back to school soon. And then also the sunshine. I am a sunshine person, soaking in all of the vitamin D as much as humanly possible. So being able to sit outside, drink coffee in the morning and all of that, living in the Midwest, that disappears come wintertime. So I will soak it all in right now.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to comment on each one of those. First off, where
Okay.
in the where in the Midwest are you?
So I am in Indiana, northern Indiana.
I'm in Indiana. Did you know that?
No, I did not. What part of Indiana are you in?
It's hilarious. Fishers.
Oh, okay. I know where you are. I'm up in Crown Point. So about
Okay.
2 hours away. We were in Fishers for a soccer tournament last year.
Yes. So I was just going to say, I as well love the weather during the season, but this week has been awful. It's been, well, the past 2 weeks, but I was in Ohio. It's just stormy. It's like stormy and then sunshine and
Oh,
then storm
really?
again and then another sunshine. And you're just like, can we just have we had great weather in the beginning of the
Yeah.
summer and now I'm missing
Hmm.
it.
I miss that so much. I want that like 80s, no
Yeah.
humidity, like that
Yes.
back. It's just like we are missing the storms up here this week. So it has been huge. humid as can be because it like gets dark and thunders and then nothing happens.
Yeah, it wants to storm, right? And so it's just
Yeah.
hanging on. And then I was also going to say sports.
Hmm.
We, for the first time, have all four kids in sports.
Oh my gosh.
And actually
God bless you.
one of them has two for this season. And so I'm like I'm
Oh
so
my
looking
gosh.
forward to it because I love again,
Hmm.
I share this love. I love the kids in sports. But
Hmm.
it's going to be a little challenging for the schedule.
Yeah,
Um
that's a lot.
okay. Yeah, and then obviously school. Like summer school. Yeah, we're excited for that to start.
Hmm.
Okay, well, we have a lot in common as well as
Yeah,
where we
that's
live.
awesome.
Who knew? All right. Well, let's start with your testimony because we love to share testimonies here
Hmm.
on Holistic Moms. And let's which I want you to share, which I think your story naturally will, but how have you taken courage in your holistic wellness through this story that God's writing in you? So just take it away, wherever you want to start.
Yeah, no problem. So my youngest had some stomach issues when he was about 2.5 years old, and he's 8 now, almost 8 now. So he's totally fine, totally healthy now. But going through that, you're a mom, you've got two kids, trying to figure all that out. The doctors didn't really know what was going on. Ultimately, we figured it out. He was diagnosed with fructose malabsorption. Basically, his body doesn't like fructose. And in that, we had to remove gluten from his diet. And that was a struggle because I could not find one resource out there that would tell me, like, this is what you should do. This is how it works. There's Facebook groups and all these things that tell you opinions, but nothing that was like, this is how you do it. And insurance covered like 30 minutes with a nutritionist, and that was it over the phone. So we were trying to piece this all together. He was in preschool. We were working full time. We had a 5 year old going through all of that. And one of the things that I quickly realized as we figured things out was that he was a different kid once we figured it out. And I became so fascinated with how the things we put into our bodies, whether it be food or like the products you use and all of that, how those things affected our overall, like our energy levels, your health, your sleep, and everything like that. And so I wound up going back to school and becoming a holistic nutrition coach, specifically to help other moms in that situation to figure out how to either help themselves or help their kids through all of that. I wound up being diagnosed with celiac disease about 2 years ago. So I was able to take all these things I learned and, just looking at back through it, it's like God's plan was there all along, us figuring this out, but me also being able to help people going forward in that same situation, who are lost. Because it is a lot. It's a lot to figure out when you're trying to overhaul your entire diet, your entire lifestyle. And I just became fascinated with it all. And that really just led me down the direction of being able to help others. And I do specifically work with people on the gluten-free diet, but I am, in general, I think the holistic approach is such a wonderful way to go with it. So that's really where I zero in on it.
Wow. I did not realize that. I mean, I have looked into your story a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
looked into your website and things, and I didn't realize like God had you on this journey to help your child,
Mm-hmm.
which as a mom, I think we'll do anything for, right? Like we'll
Right.
turn over every stone that we can to try to find answers like
Mm-hmm.
you did. And then it was like, and then you're gonna have your own diagnosis where
Yep.
as we are guilty of putting ourselves on the back burner, but when you're
Mm-hmm.
already in that world because you had to for your kid, now you're like, now I know where the information is. Now I know the resources to trust. I'm learning, I'm going to school, like
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. Like that is a fascinating part of your story and you can just see God working. And I love when we can like go back and see God's little fingerprints on things and you're like
Yes.
that was hard, but I know God had me doing that to lead to this, and
Hmm.
just instilling courage in us where we have to take action when it's hard and scary. And that's what
Hmm.
courage is. And so that's really cool. And now you can help others, which,
Yes.
you
Yep.
know, what good is a story if you're not like able to help others with it? We want to be able to share our story and help. And so now you can help people so they don't have to go through all the hard
Right.
things. Yeah, that's really cool. And I also want to say something else you said, which just has to do with holistic
Hmm.
health in general, was that what you put in affects everything.
Right.
And I also want to point out, like you mentioned, like food and things you put on your skin and in your body. I've been convicted lately, or like hearing from God lately about my eyes and my ear gates, and
Okay.
those affecting my emotional and mental health.
Yes.
And I know you talk a lot about mindset as well, and you
Hmm.
gear a lot of your coaching towards that. So I want to touch on that because when you said that comment, I was like, okay, we can go there because what you put in as food
Yes.
affects your mind so much.
It's crazy.
And even like I was saying, eyes and ears. So, like, we're searching out information to help us, but some of that information can really cause us to go into a state of confusion because we're hearing and seeing all these conflicting things and lead us into a bad mental space. So,
Yes.
let's touch on these mindset challenges that we have within actual health challenge where we think it has to do with like tactical, practical food and things, but it's really a holistic challenge that we're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So
No, I
take,
agree. It's
yeah.
definitely like it's what you bring in all aspects can make a difference. And you said your eyes and your ears, and stress plays a
Mhm.
part in how our bodies handle things too. And like the scrolling on social media becomes a challenge, and like the things you hear, the news, things that are going on. And I don't think people take that into consideration when they're overhauling things. They're like, I'm going to find this doctor says to do this on Instagram, and this person says to do this. But there's often like conflicting information because what works for one person isn't always what works for everybody. And it just makes it more confusing to where people just will give up because there's
Mhm.
too much going through, like too much coming in. And it's the mindset aspect is really what's fascinating to me about the gluten free, like going gluten free or any diet change in general, not just going gluten free, but people often overlook that aspect. And that's one of the number one reasons people don't continue with a dietary change, even if it is for health reasons, like not necessarily a weight loss, but like, the doctors say lower your cholesterol, you need to remove these foods from your diet. People get in their head about it, and so the mindset behind it and the things that you're bringing in really does make a difference, and being able to approach it with a positive mindset, or even having that support system around you to bring that positive mindset, can make such a huge difference into you sticking with it long term versus giving up on it, because it's hard, it's not easy.
Yeah. So how do you handle that? How do you handle or manage your mental wellness with something that is hard and not easy, especially when it has to do with you and your kid and your whole
Yeah.
family? Like, how do you help keep the positive vibe going throughout your house when it's like, we can't have this, we can't go here, we can't
Mm-hmm.
partake in this because of how it's going to affect our bodies?
I think for me is taking it one day at a time, because you can look ahead and be like, oh my God, 6 months from now, like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. I just miss real bread. I miss eating out at my favorite restaurant. But if you can take it one day at a time, and when you start to see the changes to your body, and when you start to see things working, it becomes a lot easier to be like, okay, I'm feeling better. I'm one step better. Maybe it's something as simple as like your stomach issues start to get better a little bit each day, or you are less tired each day, or you can keep up with your kids at the park for one day. And just seeing these little changes, but really focusing in on the little wins, not the big wins. I mean,
Mhm.
not that big wins aren't a good thing, but you're not going to see big wins right away. You're going to see these like little tiny things. And one of the things that I always encourage people to do is like gratitude journaling or writing down one positive thing every day, just something simple. Because when you have to look back at your day, and if you can't find one positive thing throughout your day, regardless of whether it's related to your diet or not, or your diet changes or not, that tells me there's something more going on. And then if there is something more going on, digging into that more, figuring it out, because overhauling your life, it's hard, but if you can find one positive thing each day, those little positive things add up, and that can make a big difference in the long run and can really help mentally. Because once you get to that point of like you're feeling so much better, you've got your energy levels back, your stomach is back on track. And depending on the reason you go gluten free, there's a variety of symptoms. I think they said there's over 99 symptoms of celiac disease. So getting, depending on what symptoms you have, and seeing that start to go away can make it so much easier to stick to your diet, because you can tell yourself, yes, I miss that bread, but my God, I love running around with my kids so much more than that single piece of bread. You know, it's it's hard to say it now when you're in the thick of it, but as you get there and start to see the results of it, it's worth it in the long run.
Yeah, that points me to accountability and consistency, which I also am big on in my coaching. It's like
Yes.
what my coaching is all about. And that is so helpful that you have been there, done that.
Hmm.
Because as a coach, because someone's going to come to you and say, I just want to feel better. How do I get to this Z point all the way out here? And you're like, yes, I know you're looking at Z and that's what you want, but we have to do A, B, and C, and you
Yes.
have to appreciate them and recognize them. And we always skip past these small things and these little changes because we actually can't even sometimes see or notice them or feel them. And
Hmm.
they're like, oh, I actually went on vacation and had no stomach issues while traveling. I've never
Yeah.
had that before. That has to be a result from my diet and like changing things. But
Hmm.
you don't see these things on the daily sometimes, especially like you said, you don't know what you're looking for. Like if you don't
Right.
know, I'm going to have more energy when I cut out this stuff. I'm gonna be able to run around with my kids for like hours instead of just 10 minutes. Like if you don't know you're looking for that, you're not going to notice and appreciate it.
Right. And I have, I very personal example of that, like the focusing on the little things. Last summer, I was in the thick of it with my celiac diagnosis, and I had just really been fully diagnosed, and I was sleeping every weekend. I could not get out of bed in the afternoons. I was taking naps. I was just exhausted. And I remember being like, so I don't understand why. I don't get it. This is not me. I hate taking naps. That's not my thing. And then like this summer, like I barely napped. And it's like looking at that, like looking back at last summer to now, it was all these little changes that I've made over the last year that made it worth it. And then, if someone comes to me and is like, hey, want a piece of cake? I'm like, no, I'm good. I love cake, but I'm not about to eat it because I don't want to take a nap tomorrow.
Yeah. And that actually, we can have our memory and memory serves us at times,
Hmm.
but that's also gives a good point of what you said before, like a gratitude journal, like writing
Yeah.
things down and journaling. Um, and it's whether it's journaling the things that you're grateful for, or even just keeping track of how you feel
Right.
with certain things. I think we don't write down our feelings enough because we're like, don't really want to feel that or name that. But when we write it down, then we can look back and say, look where I was and where I am now. I never thought I would not feel that anymore.
Yes. Yes, that's so true. And people don't realize when you're in the thick of it what's really going on. So having that memory, like you said, to go back and look at is can be huge.
Well, I know celiac can actually come on from a lot of different, like, well, you already said this, a ton of different symptoms, but it can also be hard sometimes to diagnose because it presents itself in a lot of different ways. So you're like, what?
Hmm.
So how were you diagnosed and how did you figure it
Hmm.
out?
So I've always had a sensitive stomach. Like something has been wrong since I was little. I've had a sensitive stomach forever. We thought it was dairy, so I tend to avoid certain types of dairy, but I still would have milk, but not always, like all these various things. I loved ice cream. Ice cream is like my biggest weakness. Um, and back in November of 2022, well, I guess there's a couple different ways that it's happened, but I had some really, really bad anxiety right before the pandemic hit. I eliminated the gluten from my diet because I had read that gluten was a trigger of anxiety, and it helped. But then I kind of slowly got back into eating gluten again, and things were okay, not great, but enough that I was like, that's fine. I'll still eat the gluten. And then in November of 2022, my husband and I went out to celebrate our anniversary for dinner. And the next morning, I wound up in urgent care. And we thought I was having gallbladder issues. Everything checked out fine. And he finally said, he's like, you have inflammation in your small intestine. And I was like, okay. And he's like, go to see your doctor as a follow. I'm like, okay. So my doctor ran some tests and she's like, yeah, I don't really know. Like I was testing the blood test for celiac is only about 50% accurate. I was testing negative. And then so she sent me to a GI doctor and went to the GI doctor. She's like, all of your symptoms present as celiac. Like everything is presenting as celiac from A to Z. So um she wound up telling me, she's like, well, by the time I had seen her and gotten the blood work done, I had already been off gluten for multiple weeks. And that's why the blood test was negative, is because I hadn't been on gluten. If you're on gluten, you give a better chance of getting a positive blood test. But I'd already eliminated by that time. And she's like, you are so miserable on it. I don't want to put you back on it. You know, so that's how I ultimately got diagnosed. But like looking back on things like the anxiety, looking back on the days my stomach have been off. And like, I thought red meat was a problem. No, it was the hamburger buns I was eating with the red meat, things
Oh,
like that.
yeah.
Like looking back, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, this makes so much more sense. But yeah, we think because it's an autoimmune disorder, usually something will trigger it to like
Mm-hmm.
activate in full force. I had COVID not long before that. The doctors
Mm-hmm.
have said, they have told me like there's a good chance that that's what activated it, but we don't know
Mm-hmm.
for sure. So
Yeah.
kind of a little bit of a mix, but it did take me about 6 months to get a solid diagnosis on it. Just going back and forth with the doctors, being like, oh, just take a laxative. You'll be fine. Just do this. And I'm like, I don't really want to take a laxative for the rest of my life. Like,
Yep.
that's just not my thing. So,
Yep.
but that's how I got
Okay.
there.
Yeah. And so, okay, you um you and your son have diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
for your health, but
Mm-hmm.
then you have another son and a husband. So
Yes.
how do you handle, because as we've pointed out, emotional mental wellness is very much plays into this physical
Mm-hmm.
wellness diagnosis and health challenge. How do you handle the emotional wellness of the house as it pertains to food and just the what you're putting in your body
Mm-hmm.
when not every family member has these issues? Like, how do you handle that in a family?
So we're very open about it. Like my oldest son, he does not have any issues with stomach and food and anything like that. But he knows, like mom doesn't eat gluten. Mom is very careful about dairy. He has no problem with it. He'll be like, oh, does that have gluten in it? Or like the other night, he offered me to try an ice cream that we had made in our Ninja Creamy. And I'm like, hey, bud, can't have it. He's like, oh, I forgot. Little things like that, but I don't make it as a negative thing. It's more of there are certain things that don't support my body, but they support your body. Okay. And we've just always been very open about it. And I mean, he was old enough to kind of see things last year. Like he saw me not feeling good. He knows that there was like days where like mom just doesn't feel good. And there's still days that happens. And so he'll say, "Is your stomach okay?" And it's like, "Yep, we're good today, not today." Just I'm very open about having that conversation. And when we buy food for the house or we cook dinner, we pretty much all will eat the same thing or same variety of things, but maybe just a little bit different. So I'll make two types of noodles. There's a gluten-free noodle and a regular noodle. My husband and one son will eat this noodle, me and the other one will eat this noodle. And then it's kind of like when you're cooking for kids and you have the picky eater. So one of them will have it with spaghetti sauce, one won't. And it's just we handle it the same way, and we're just very open and have that conversation about it, and we don't make it taboo. It's how we support our bodies, and we each have a different version of healthy, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just with I was at a camp and,
Mm-hmm.
um, there was a family of 6 kids, and I believe only one of them has, um, like a health issue with food,
Mm-hmm.
but they all eat the same. And
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe there's 2 of them. I don't know. And they don't go out to restaurants because of, and so, and I watched them. I ate with them every day,
Mm-hmm.
every meal, and I watched them just support each other in it, even though it wasn't their diagnosis. They were like, we just don't eat that as a family. We eat food that is healthy for us. And it was to
Yeah.
hear them talk as kids as to what food is healthy. They were so knowledgeable, and it was camp food. I mean, come on. But they would get special little plates of things, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm letting my kid sit next to me and eat this stuff that's not good for him." But it's camp. Okay. But then it had me thinking how to teach your family
Yeah.
better ways to eat, how it serves your body, how it affects everything at such a
Mm-hmm.
young age. Like, it's such a good thing to learn as a kid because it will serve you for the rest of your life and
Yes.
help prevent from a lot of things. So,
Yeah, no, and I don't know about you, but like I think about American culture and like what we're growing up in with all these kids being pushed, like, seeing like weight loss this, weight loss
yeah.
this, weight loss this. And like, I remember like, I think back to like back when we were like probably teenagers or kids, like the Atkins diet was everywhere or slim fast this and like all these different things. And it was all about maintaining your weight or maintaining this slim figure and something that I think is, and maybe it's just because I'm in it every day, so I see it more often, but I think such a positive shift that's happening right now is focusing on supporting your body, like you were saying, like putting in food that's healthy for you versus
Mhm.
not necessarily what's considered healthy by society, because what's considered healthy by society isn't always what's best for you. And I think
Yeah.
that's exactly right. And it's so awesome that those kids are being raised in a way that they understand that difference.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And so it's almost like a blessing in disguise when you have this
Mm-hmm.
a family member with a health issue
Yeah.
that pertains to food that you guys can all learn how to care for your body in a healthy way instead of just being like, we're just gonna eat whatever we want because we feel fine. Like,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like you really just don't know that you don't feel fine. But
Exactly.
yeah, I do love the positive shift of how culture is going in that way of supporting your body with healthy food. I do like that. Okay, so we're all about simple here,
Mm-hmm.
and we
Here
love
too.
simple solutions. And so, what are some simple food diet, like diet solutions or hacks, even to eating gluten free or just eating with an allergy to something?
I think it's so I'm huge on meal planning. And people overcomplicate meal planning so much. But it doesn't have to be complicated. It is so simple to do and spending 10 to 15 minutes a week looking at your schedule, looking at your meal plan, or looking at the recipes you want to cook and seeing how it fits together. Having a plan for the week is the number one way, in my opinion, to stick to that form of eating, whether it's an allergy or gluten free, because not having a plan is going to result in you reaching for something like fast food running to a restaurant and carry out, where you're going to run into cross contamination. You're going to run into other things like that. Unless you live in a bigger city where there's a ton of options for your allergy, most likely eating at a restaurant or grabbing fast food is not going to be that safe necessarily for you.
Right.
Um, so I think having a plan for the week, and anytime you're going out to eat with friends, looking at the menu ahead of time, or making a call to the restaurant and being like, is there going to be something safe for me? So that you're not stuck in that position when you get to the restaurant and going, oh my God, I can't eat anything. And then you get in your head. And so that way, by the time you get to the restaurant, you already know, okay, I can't really eat anything, but I'm going to enjoy a water and I'll eat ahead of time or afterwards, things like that. So I think planning is the biggest hack I have to sticking to things.
Well, that's great because one of my biggest hacks on this podcast is planning to
Oh,
reduce
good.
to reduce anxiety in any
Yeah,
kind of form or fashion. And when you have a health diagnosis and you're like, "Well, I have to eat," and then
right.
that brings up anxiety if you don't have a
Mm-hmm.
plan. So, perfect hack to just nail it home for our listeners here is plan to fail or fail to plan to fail.
Plan fail. Yes.
So, just plan it out for you, your family, and it would just bring ease to everyone and kind of even a plan for your plan. So when do you
Yes.
plan? Like I love planning Sunday night or Sunday evening, afternoon for the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the week. So when do you do your meal plan?
So I'm a Sunday night. I love Sunday night as well. But I think with meal planning, you have to do a little bit of it before you go grocery shopping,
Yeah.
because you need to know what you're going to buy at the grocery store. Like,
Hmm.
and having the ingredients on hand. Because if you wait until after you've done your grocery shopping and then you're like, oh, I'm going to make these recipes. Well, now you have another trip to the grocery store to make. So
Yep.
I love a Sunday night like schedule plan, but having that meal plan ahead of time usually for me would be like a Saturday afternoon, because I go grocery shopping on Saturday night when nobody's in the store.
Yeah, it totally depends when you go grocery shopping. So
Yeah.
for me, being a stay-at-home, well, work from home mom,
Okay.
I grocery shop on Mondays typically.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
So Sunday is my planning for the week. Um, and yeah, no one's there on Monday either. So it's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's why I
uh,
like Saturday nights.
yeah,
Nobody's there.
good little tip. I'm actually going majorly shopping tonight on a Friday night
Ooh.
um, for all the school supplies. And
Oh,
I think
nice.
I've done this before on a Friday. It's typically pretty good too. Pretty good
Yeah.
time to
Like
go
after
shopping.
like 7 or 8 p.m. when like
Yeah.
nobody's out, it's the
No
best
one
time to
wants to
go.
go to the store. Um, okay, so thanks for that tip. I have a personal question.
Mhm.
Next is what have you learned about God, his character, or just him, your relationship with him through this health challenge?
I would have to say, going back to planning, it's that he has a plan.
Oh,
I think I've heard this phrase a million times throughout my life, and it's God's timing, not yours.
hmm,
And that has really played a part in so much of my journey, because I've not understood why things are happening when they are. And it's like, why did we not figure out what my son's issues until he was 2.5 years old?
mm,
Or, well, he could start to speak then. And then but like, why did it take so long? Well, God had to send us through all these challenges in order to figure out what was going on. Because if we just had an answer right away, like, would we have stuck to it as much? Would we have understood it as much? Would we have asked as many questions? And
yeah,
just with everything, like, he has a plan for why things are happening. And it's been in our house to open our eyes to so many different things, and, lead us to helping more people. So,
yeah, yeah. That definitely speaks to me because we're dealing with our own health things here in my family,
mhm.
and it's like you said, if you had the answer right away, like if we had the answer when my husband was a teenager, it would not lead us to the resources that we
Yes.
are leaning into now. You just wouldn't
Hmm.
go the same route and you wouldn't even know the same people. Like
No.
the people that led us to, yeah, it's so crazy. So you just have to be um grateful that God has this plan and timing and it's perfect.
Hmm.
and trust him that you will find your answer, your path, your guiding, your direction when his time says that it's time. And
Yes.
that's really hard for us wanting to be in control,
Yep.
to just trust his time and plan. So that's really good. That's such a, again, a lesson anyone can learn
Right.
and no matter what you're going through. All right. Well, I have loved this. And I'm sure our listeners have. Where can they find you and what do you have for them out there? Where can they find you? What kind of content do you have?
Yes. So I'm on all social media as Kristin Longacre. Super easy to find, just my name. And then I actually have, speaking of meal planning, a free workshop that I give out to anybody who is interested in learning more about meal planning, specifically for the gluten-free diet, but it can apply to really any allergy or even sensitivities. And that's on my website at kristinlongacre.com/workshop. Super easy. And it takes you through the process and makes it in a way that you'll actually stick with it and not give up on it.
Well, good. Okay, great. We're going to put that in the show notes if you
Okay,
didn't
awesome.
need the spelling and all of that. We're going to put the links in the show notes. You can find that there and go find Kristin and tell her thanks for being on the show and tell her what you've learned from her story today and how it's helped you. I know she'll appreciate that. So thank you so much for being on
Thank
Holistic
you,
Moms
Shan.
today. Yeah.
It was wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Wellness Warrior. I pray that blessed you. And if so, it would bless me big if you would write a 5-star review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Not only would this make me super happy, but it will allow for others to find this show too. Also, I love to chat over on Instagram, so make sure to take a screenshot, share to your Instagram stories, and tag me at @TheShanWright so I can see it and we can keep chatting and bring other moms to chat with us. Until we get to chat again, mama friend, may the Lord's face shine upon you and give you peace.